Today I'm going to talk to you about how often you should be teaching what subjects to your child. So a lot of people, when they start homeschooling, they sit their kids down and they're like, okay, history check, English check, science check. We only have geography and math and reading and language arts to go. And it's really funny when people who've been homeschooling a long time hear this, because we don't usually, in my survey of homeschooling parents, people don't usually teach all the subjects in one day. Really, what people do every day in my extensive surveying is math every day. Handwriting, if your child is learning handwriting, a lot of people do this. And reading. Reading is the third one, especially if they're learning to read. Those are the big three: math, handwriting, and reading. And I would say those are the subjects we do every day because they require kind of incremental learning. Like math, you have like foundational topics like addition, subtraction, and then you're building on those with fraction and multiplication, and math just kind of builds on itself. So you can't really decide, say in ninth grade, okay, they're ready for pre-calculus if you haven't been going hammering away every day at those previous things. Reading, same thing. Foundational, you have to know your letter sounds. Then you have to know how to sound words out. Then you are building a huge vocabulary of words. So reading is building on itself, and you kind of become better the more you do it. Same with math. The other one, handwriting, is just a mechanical skill that you really need practice for. So I think if there's something that requires a foundation of learning, where the subject builds on itself, or it requires a lot of daily practice and memorization, or kind of just muscle training, those are the type of subjects that you would want to do probably every day on a regular basis. So if you're new to homeschooling, you're probably thinking, well, when do they do the other subjects? The answer for a lot of homeschooling families is they have a co-op. There are a lot of co-ops out there. Some of them are really big and nationally organized. A lot of them are local co-ops, but imagine a scenario, say you're already homeschooling, which I know many of you are, where once a week or twice a week, you go to a place, you're with other families, and say you're in charge of one subject, like you had a background in Spanish, and so you're teaching beginner Spanish, or you just have to come up with one science experiment and make it fun and interesting and get the supplies. And then you go to this place where someone else is doing something really fun related to history or related to math or whatever subject they want. It's like a dream, right? And just that once a week intensive experience is enough to kind of cover that subject. Oh, sometimes I pity the kids that are in school and just those families that these subjects have to be so dry, and they're reading from textbooks and they're filling out worksheets. It's so sad when you think about what homeschoolers get to do, where they get to say, okay, guess what? Field trip this week. We're going to this museum, or we're going to this historical site. We're going to walk around and we're just going to talk about the history that happened. It's so much more meaningful and so much more, once again, like what adult learning is like. So as adults, we don't think of ourselves as an educated person because we do 6 subjects per day. I'm not keeping up my history work. Maybe I get super interested in some historical topic. I remember my mom, when I was probably 16, we were doing a family road trip, and we visited Nevada, and we visited the site where the Donner Party stayed. If you don't know about the Donner Party, look them up. It's super interesting. We visited the site where the Donner Party stayed. I vividly remember this. And my mom bought this book in the gift shop all about the Donner Party, and it was super detailed and really thick. And she was just captivated by this book. And that is what adult learning is like. We have an experience. We think it's so interesting. We say, I want to know more. We read a book, we watched videos online, and we say, that was so fascinating. I'm glad I learned that. I may not remember it all in a year, and that's okay. Teaching your child how to learn and say, Let's deep dive into this. That's so valuable and normal. So subjects where it's like science, math, where they're learning stuff, they're learning a lot of facts that they may remember in 6 months or they may not. You do not have to do those every day. If they can have an amazing experience once a week, a couple times a month that goes deep into their psyche, deep into their experience, that is worth days of worksheets like they would do in school. And what you can do is if your child becomes very interested in a topic, you can, and this is actually an idea that is borrowed from a type of homeschooling called unit studies. So there's all different theories about homeschooling and we'll get into that, but unit studies say, okay, we're going to really get a lot out of this time in history and we're going to focus our science around that. We're going to focus our writing around that topic, say colonial times. We're going to do science projects. We're going to read history. We're going to visit sites and we're going to deep dive into this. What an amazing experience. But it doesn't need to be the drudgery of history worksheets, science worksheets every day. Power-packed, intense experience is worth more than 100 worksheets.